we touched upon culture, and I think you have been conscious about the culture from day one. Do you have a way to describing it? Because sometimes culture is, it's very easy to have the sentences that says we're going to be innovative, we're going to take care of our people, but really it's about behaviors and actions.
Yeah.
So how have you designed the culture, and any lessons learned? Because one thing is having it in theory, but out of practice, usually, like we said in football, can be different,
Yes.
Are you able to execute on the idea the coach has?
Exactly. No, I mean, and I think it's a super important item. So what we did is basically we built the culture with everyone being involved. So I didn't say, we should have this or that, and these should be our values. We basically took the entire organization, particularly after we did a big merger a number of years ago, and said we all need to agree on how we want to run this company. So we went to workshops where we asked people for their views on what do you think, from what you know already, how would you see Hafnia developing around these areas? Lots of workshops, lots of talk about our values. So we came out of this with very strong buy-in from our colleagues that this was a joint effort to create the Hafnia culture. I think the biggest mistake that people sometimes make is that a few people decide what the values should be and what everything else should look like, and then they expect to have the buy-in afterwards. Yeah. So the bottom up, I think, was super important.
It makes sense. And also maybe so one thing is, have all that time, building it and creating it, but then you also need to execute on it. So how stubborn do you think you have to be to keep that culture in place? Because I guess you always know there's people involved, there are different sides, maybe there's a story inside the organization. Yeah. And then what usually happens, if it can't get resolved, it ends up on the top in some form.
Absolutely. Totally.
Is that hard to execute on, to be that,
Well, I think it's a constant process. And the easiest way for me to describe it is that's the leadership task, right? So what we need, all the people that have managerial responsibility in Hafnia has to be dedicated to this. And we spend a lot of time. So one thing is you define the culture you like and the values and what they actually mean. Not just a poster or a cup, whatever, but what do they actually mean in daily life? Second step was to build on the leadership competences. So we basically chose to have what you can call a value-based leadership style. So our view is that if you have a dilemma and you're debating it, what to do here, think about the values and take the moral compass to guide you. What is the right decision for Hafnia here? And by doing this, we've just been building and continuously talk about the leadership style, because obviously I can't run this on my own, and I shouldn't. But I'm very much aware that this is something you need to talk about all the time. So that's how you do it. And yes, have we had issues? Absolutely. Have we had to get rid of people that didn't take that leadership cultural part seriously? Absolutely. And that's how you basically make sure that you develop, right?
But Hafnia is also, the organization has a big scale. There's a lot of people involved. So looking at your own journey, because being the founding member, you're always on top of everything. But then you sort of have to transition at some point and say, I can't be on top of every task.
Yeah.
But maybe you enjoy some tasks, so you want to be involved. So how does your day-to-day look? Has it evolved a lot over time, or do you always had, a structure on how you like to work, what the projects you like being on, or is that also a transition and evolution?
Yeah, so I think I have mainly been involved, particularly as we grew the company, right? So M&A transactions, bigger transactions, and quite frankly, the whole organization has been pretty hard worked over the last many years, creating, every time there was a project, we have finished one, there was a new one. So I think we were all very excited building this company. For the last year, we've kind of been, if you know, in harvesting mood. So the business is great, it's up there, and people can now focus on optimizing and basically returning capital to shareholders. And so what I've come to realize, having had 12 months now of more daily operation than expanding projects, is that the beauty about doing a lot of projects is that you create some very, very, very skillful colleagues. It's stressful when it's happening, but you think about people in a finance team that has been doing multiple refinancing, change of structures, re-domiciling in terms of companies. We have people that are at the age of 35, 37 that have done more and have more experience than people that are at the end of their career. So I realized that the great thing about activity is that you educate your organization, and everyone that comes through it, you're suddenly looking at a really, really well-managed platform. So I can happily say today that, I have a vested interest in the business, right? I came out of, it's a bottom-up thing for me. I love the commercial side, I love the operations, the procurement side, and I understand it. But I read the reports, and I don't drill down and try to be a nuisance in that. I try to keep the level up here, and particularly focus on Hafnia as a business that's owned by a lot of different shareholders, and how do we make sure that the pricing of our shares, that the results we have are better than our peers, and therefore justifies more investors buying into the Hafnia share.